Moving the springs in the bushings from the rear of a 88 to 99 Chevy pickup truck. It actually just covers more years than that. Most anything with leaf springs, including cars. First thing you're going to have to do is try to soak some oil, penetrating oil if you can. It's probably not going to make a difference, mainly in the nut. If you get some in the back of the bushing, so it can try to get in down the bolt and let it sit for a while, I would definitely try that. And then what I did is since the bolt wouldn't come out by itself, it turned a little bit. I got the nut flush with the bolt and just beat the crap out of it while I was turning it. And in the process, the eyelid broke. But if you can see the rust on there and the cracks where it broke, that tells us we had fatigue and there was a crack inside of it already and water was getting into it. So I really didn't break what wasn't already broken. I just exposed it. So once I was able to get the bolt out, I luckily got the bolt out. I got a pin punch holding the spring in for the moment because I want the rest of it in while I do it so it stays steady. Now try to get these bolts loose or out in the rear. Soaking at least the nuts will help. The shackles, these can be replaced pretty easily. And if you see here, the bushing, see how there's space in there? The bushing is actually dry rotted and falling apart. And the problem with these, to get these bolts out, is inside the bushing there's a metal sleeve which gets seized to the rubber, so you can't get it out. Now in this case, I spreaded the shackle, the holder here, so I can get my die grinder in there and get it loose and get it in there, and I cut it. This side here, I'm going to spread it. It actually will be able to move now. Spread it in there. Hold on a second. With my cutoff tool. I like electric. They actually work sometimes better than air tools. Don't have to run. And what I was able to do is get a 4-inch cutoff wheel instead of a 3. So now I will be able to get in back there and cut it once I move this a little farther out. And then the bushings are pretty easy once you got that out. You just gonna have to probably burn the rubber out. Once you burn the rubber out, the metal sleeve will go out the way, and then the casing, you'll be able to just chisel the casing out or just crush it so it comes out, the casing over here. Now leaf springs, these basically got 4 springs if you want to call it that. This is a 1/2 ton. If you want to improve your springs, a little more height, and a little bit more payload, you're going to get springs out of 88. It would be 88.5, I guess. To, I believe it's 2004 you can use the springs to. Pickup trucks you want to use with pickup trucks. Tahoes and Suburbans are pretty much with Tahoe Suburbans because the frames are slightly different size. But if you change the leaves, you can actually make it work. That's what these are for. Now, 2500 series has 2 different types of springs. For weight-wise, I think one is 7,500 pounds gross vehicle weight. The other is about 9,600 pounds gross vehicle weight, thereabouts. You would look for a rear end with 14 bolts or 8 lugs, and that would tell you. The 14 bolt rear end either has 6 lugs on it on the outside. That would tell you it's just like this 10 bolt here. That would tell you that it is a semi-floater rear axle, and that it's a 7,500 pounds of lower spring rating for the 2500 series. If it's 14 bolts and has cooling fins in the front and 8 lugs, it tells you it's a full floater rear end, which is most people want, because this one, the axles ride on by bearings. They're not bolted in. They're connected inside the carrier by C-clips. So you have to take the back cover off, get the C-clips out, and the axle go out. But a full floater rear end is bolted to the axle housing, and you can change the axles while the truck's on the ground without opening the rear end. You would just take the bolts that would hold the axle and pull it out. And that way the whole rear end supports the weight of the truck, not just the axle. That's the difference between a full floater and a semi floater, is how the hub bolts on. This hub does not bolt onto anything. There's no bolts, just the studs. But those 14 bolt full floater rear ends will have the heavier duty springs. There'll be 8 lugs. They won't be 6, and they'll give you probably about 1 inch to 2 inches of lift. They'll give you a little more payload capacity. But the only thing you have to watch out for is you have a 1500 pound or 1500 series frame, which is a little lighter, and then it's not as strong. But you'll get a little bit more weight capacity out of it if you take it easy, and you get a little bit more height, but your ride will be slightly stiffer. So hopefully that explains how to do this. And the springs will fit from 88.5 to, like I said, 2004. Go with pickup trucks. And then I would probably go with the middle weight springs, which are the 6-lug axles on a 2500 series, and that'll be good too. And then you can actually go with the 14 bolts rear end and get yourself more strength, and then go with the 14 bolt full floater rear end, and then you'll get actually a lot more strength and more power out of the rear end too. Thank you.